Hey y'all, welcome to Megan's Wreath Boutique. Today's tutorial is on how I make my bows. You're gonna need some ribbon. It doesn't necessarily matter what size. I do like to use the larger ribbon and then the 1.5 inch ribbon just to kind of give my bow some depth. This is 2.5 inch ribbon that I'm using, or I'm going to be starting with, and you're going to need some scissors, a chenille stem, and if you have one, you don't necessarily need one, but it's like a bow maker. And the only reason I have that in this video is because I use it to hold the different levels of my bow, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So the first thing that I'm going to start off doing is I measure the tails. This is going to be the biggest portion of my bow, this specific ribbon. So I usually do 6-inch tails, and I scrunch it up right there and twist so that the bottom of the ribbon is showing. And the reason you do that is because when you fold over your loop, you're going to want the printed side of your ribbon to show. And I start with my largest loops, like I said, and those loops are going to be 12 inches long. So I just measure 12 inches, scrunch down the middle and pinch. Again, you twist the ribbon so that the bottom part of the ribbon is showing towards you, so that when you fold it, the printed side is up. And then you just hold it right there in the middle, and then you're going to measure. I just usually do 2 loops, and then you're going to measure the other tail. And I like my tails to be alternating, so one's going to be on the top and the other one's going to be on the bottom. Okay, so then we're going to, and this is what I'm talking about, I use this little bow maker for just to hold the layers of my bow. You can hold them in your hand. It just gets a little tiresome. What you can also do is go ahead and wrap your chenille stem on that first layer. Don't wrap it real tight because you're going to undo it for each layer, but it's just a way to hold each layer of your bow, just so you're not holding it in your hand the whole time. So the next layer of my bow, this is also a 2.5 inch ribbon. I'm going to do pretty much the same exact thing, 6-inch tails, but instead of a 12-inch loop this time, I'm going to drop it down to 11 inches. And I'm going to do that each level of the bow. So every time I switch ribbon, I'm going to go down 1 inch in my loops. And like I said, this just gives your bow a little bit of depth and layers. You can see each layer. If you want to keep each ribbon the same exact size in loops, that's up to you. Just play around with your bow and make it to the way you like it. This is just the way I like doing it. And one thing I had mentioned earlier is about the tails. I do like to alternate my tails with each layer as well. So that first layer, I have one going off to the left and one going off to the right. So this layer, I'm going to twist my tails to have one going off to the top right and one going down to the bottom left. Again, just my preference. It's not something you have to do. It's just what I like to do. And I do like to kind of get my bow positioned in the correct position while it's in this bow maker thing. It's not going to stay perfect, but I kind of like to just form it while it's in that position, just so that when I twist the chenille stem, everything kind of stays in place. You're still going to have to work with it and make it, poof it up the way you like it and make it look perfect once you get it on your wreath. But that's just something I like to do. So we're moving on to this next layer, this next ribbon. I'm pretty sure this is a 1 inch ribbon. It might be a 1.5 inch ribbon. I can't remember exactly, but either way, it's a little bit smaller than the 2 ribbons I've used previously. So again, we're doing the 6-inch tails. This time we're doing a 10-inch loop, and we're doing the same exact steps that we've done with the first 2 ribbons that we've used. Let me know down in the comments if you're new to wreath making or bow making, or if it's something you've been doing for a while. And I know bows can sometimes be intimidating for most people. I know it was for me, but I promise the more you work with the ribbon and the more you work on your bows, the better you're going to get. And I will say the higher quality ribbon usually just works better for bows. The cheaper ribbon, it's kind of hard to work with, and it's kind of hard to form. So I would suggest getting a high quality ribbon just to practice with until you can get the hang of it, and then you can move on to using any type of ribbon you'd like. And I will say the wired ribbon works best as well. If you have a non-wired ribbon, you're going to have a little bit harder time forming your bow. So we just finished that layer. Again, I alternated the tails, and we're moving on to the last layer. Sometimes I do like to make this last layer, the loops, a little bit smaller. I don't necessarily go down 1 inch. I think I did in this one, and I went ahead and did a 9-inch ribbon, and I think it turned out fine. But sometimes I'll do an even smaller loop, maybe like a 7-inch or a 5-inch, just to make a little bit more of a dramatic jump to kind of fill in the center of that bow. But again, completely up to you. Work with it and figure out what you like, and go with that. So we're just going to pop it onto this bow maker, and we're going to position our tails to where they're alternating. And I think these, I went ahead and kind of like positioned them just where it kind of needed a filler. So not necessarily right up and down. But okay, now we're going to take the chenille stem. I like to bend it in half just to find the center. And you're going to want to pull this bow off of this bow maker pretty carefully, because you don't want those layers to pop open and everything that you work so hard getting position to come undone. So pinch it really tight, hold it tightly until you can get that chenille stem good and wrapped around that bow, because you don't want it coming apart, because you'll have to start over. So I put the middle at the top and I put the ends down at the bottom, and what I do is I twist, and then I twist the bow, and I find that tightens that chenille stem better than just twisting the actual stems themselves. So twist that bow around, and then go ahead and position everything the way you like it. And again, once you put it on your wreath, you're going to have to move things around here and there to make it look right. But just get a general idea of what it's going to look like and fluff everything up real good. And then we'll add it to our wreath. All right, now I have added it to my wreath. Again, I just took those chenille stems and kind of stuck them down into my wreath where I found little openings, and I twisted them onto the wreath frame itself just to go ahead and secure that bow really good to the actual frame of the wreath. Again, position things the way you like them. Move your loops around, move your tails around the way you need until you find something you like, and you might have to move it again once you mess with it a couple of times. I feel like I'm constantly moving things here and there when I'm making wreaths, and that's cool, you know. do it until you figure out what looks best. So you're just going to want to dovetail each tail that you made, and or you can cut them at like a kind of like an angle, or you can leave them straight across. Again, it's totally up to whatever you prefer. And I think that's going to be our last step for this bow. So let me know if I missed anything or if you have any questions down in the comments below. And if you liked this video, if it helped you in any way, or you think somebody else could benefit from it, please like and share. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would greatly appreciate you subscribing, and feel free to share my channel for anybody who may need help with wreath making or bow making. I would appreciate that too.